Mandukya Karika, Pranam Mantra. Om Bhadram Karne Bhishnuyama Deva Bhadram Pashe Makshabhirya Jatra Sthirairangaye Tustuvagung Sastanubhi Vishema Deva Hitam Yadayu Swasti na Indro Vriddhashrava Swasti na Pusha Vishwaveda Swasti nastakshyo Arishthanemi Swasti no Brihaspatir Dadhatu Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. We had covered pretty difficult verse, third chapter, verse number 33, where it was mentioned that the knower and the known and the knowledge, all three become one. See, Hindu religion, particularly Vedanta, it's not a simplistic religion. And Vedanta is not a simplistic philosophy. It's not something that you think and you speak and you pass off certain things just as reason. This applies to mathematical reasoning too. Vedanta philosophy is an intuitive philosophy. By intuitive philosophy mean that you need to go deeper into meditation. See, very often our listeners ask questions, send questions, and I don't know what to answer them because they will not understand. If you cannot understand my talks, if you cannot understand the subject that I have explained so thoroughly, it only means that if you ask a question, my answers will not satisfy you. Now you need to go deeper. You need to be meditative. You need to be deeply contemplative, and the answers will bloom before you. Now, one of the very difficult concepts, I use the word concept because for us, it's a concept, but for the greats, it's a reality. When you go deeper into spirituality, whatever path you take, whether you take the path of bhakti or you take the path of jnana, that is Vedanta, you find that what you had been aiming at all your life, you had been meditating, you had been contemplating, you had been trying to make your mind still, and you realize that the object of your worship and the act and you, these three have become one. This was uh, uh, please don't mind, Subhajit Bardhan, whosoever you are. Now look, I'm discussing a very difficult topic and I have to keep my chat on, open. Normally, I switch it off. I need to see if somebody is asking something to be clarified and if the verses are being written properly. Now, if you are talking about Akhanda Bharat and all those things, now this is wrong. You are not only annoying, irritating, you are an irritant. Now, this is unfair. This is not the way to learn anything. Either listen quietly or leave this forum. You really think that with this kind of disturbed mind, with, as they say in Bengali, chanchalya, you really think you can achieve anything? It's unfair. Please, if you cannot help me in my work, at least don't be a roadblock. So, your object, that is Brahman, and the knowledge of Brahman, These are one and the same thing. It was explained. It was explained in the previous talk. A kalpakam ajam jnanam geya bhinnam prachakshate. Gyan and geya. The just a second. The object of knowledge and the process of knowledge, they become one. Now, this is a very, very, very difficult thing. And Sri Ramakrishna, those of you who have studied Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna know that he has been talking about meditation, he's talking about bhakti, and he's talking about this jnana. In everything, like when you meditate, ultimately you become successful only when the process of meditation or object of meditation, they all become one. This is known as chitta vritti nirodha, cessation of all mental modification. Sorry if I got slightly annoyed, but dear listeners, you have to be a little kind towards me. We're discussing a very difficult subject. Slightest distraction and the whole thing gets ruined. And while discussing that, while explaining that this verse, shlok, we had explained how darkness can never reveal light. Darkness can never reveal light. So the knowledge, as we understand, the knowledge is a product of mind, can never reveal Brahman. Well, it was explained in detail. Now, we take up shlok number 34, verse number 34. Why Samadhi? Do we need Samadhi? A very interesting topic. Now, before we get to this verse, we need to understand just one or 2 points very clearly. First, when we talk about mukti, when we're talking about liberation, mukti, it is not an indirect product. It's not an indirect process. For example, think of your happiness. Think of joy. Happiness is a better word because we often use the word joy for realization. So let's call it happiness. Supposing you love eating something, or you love going to some place, or you love talking to somebody, meeting with somebody. When that purpose is attained, that means you eat something, you drink something, you go somewhere, you meet someone, the result is happiness. So there is a cause and effect relationship. You are interested in the effect, which is happiness. But happiness is caused indirectly. Now, knowledge is not something like that. Knowledge is not an indirect product of something. So there is no cause and effect relationship. See, we have been discussing this many times. We have tried to explain it as many times whenever the topic came. And sometimes I even digress to put this idea across. That every time we are discussing Atma Gyan, self-realization, it's not only self-realization, it's true for God realization too, and it is true for bhakti too. Those who practice bhakti and of any religion, in each of these cases, the fact remains the same. What? The result is not a product of some other act. The act and the result, they are one and the same. This is a very beautiful expression in Sanskrit for this. It comes in Narad Bhakti Sutra, which is Phalarupatvat. The action and the result, they are one and the same. You love God, the result is love of God. You practice jnana, that is, you practice universality. You practice oneness. And the result is oneness. So the result is not something indirect. Now, so it's not even associated with ideas like heaven and all, as we had in some of our older philosophies and still practiced in other religions. What does it mean? Simply means that there cannot be the intervention of mind. And the technical term for that is money. Means no money, no mind, that we had explained previous talk. Those of you who have been listening to our talks for a long time, one of my listeners today sent me a message telling that within a few days, that is before the next week, we will be celebrating the anniversary of these talks. You are going to complete 1 year. So even I was surprised. Those of you who have been listening to these talks and trying to follow, and I'll request my dear listeners to listen to these talks from beginning once again, and maybe once again, and maybe once again. That's how the ideas settle in your mind. Especially if you listen to Raj Yoga talks in English, the ideas will become much more clear. What exactly happens with mind, as we have discussed in Raj Yoga, we really do not know what exactly mind is, but we know about its functioning. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens that you know the science of it, but you do not know what is happening. Sometimes science comes earlier and technology follows it. Sometimes technology comes earlier and science follows it. Well, it's like that. In this case, in this particular case, we know the technology, we don't know the science. For example, maybe 500 years, till 500 years ago, when people used to cut trees or till their land, tilling, they did not know the science behind it. Only when Newton came that these ideas became clear. So technology was already there, science came later. In case of atomic bomb, science came earlier, technology came later. So, they go hand in hand. In case of mind, we know the techniques. The Raj Yoga has given every technique, everything about mind, but we don't yet understand the science of it. Maybe someday it will become clear. And those of you who have been listening to our class would remember that whenever there is slightest of activity of the mind, slightest activity of mind is known as a vritti. That's the technical term. Slightest of activity, and the duality enters. Duality is opposed to unification, obviously. Brahman is one. Duality is two. I-ness enters. So if there is even the slightest of activity of mind, you will fall down from the state of Brahmagyan. But of course, if you attain knowledge once, then that never goes away. But we are discussing the case of us mortals. Once the mind stops taking in the external world, the objects of the external world, it becomes dead. Apparently. How? Acharya Shankar uses a beautiful expression like the fire that's not getting any more fuel. Once the supply of fuel is cut off, fire goes out. Mind has gone out. Mind doesn't exist anymore. Fair enough. Very good. Mind stops working. Maybe mind has gone into an altered state of consciousness. But that is what happens when we are in deep sleep. Probably something like that happens when somebody smokes maybe marijuana or maybe takes some drugs. When I was young, when I was young monk, I remember somebody was telling me that, look, you people talk about spiritual realizations, you talk about visions, but that exactly is what happens when you have drugs like LSD. When you use certain kind of drugs, you start hallucinating. And say that monks in earlier times used to take ganja, bhang, etc. And the kind of hallucinations that were produced by those drugs, well, they thought that they have become something big. So I was asked that, how is your meditation different from this? Or, for example, for that matter, how is meditation different from, say, self hypnosis, auto suggestion? So, well, I was young, I didn't have any answer, and well, I used to mumble something about character, greatness of character, etc. It was only later when I studied these things that ideas became clear. Here, the distinction is between deep sleep and samadhi. One of our listeners had once asked a question related to this. I am forgetting the name of that gentleman, or maybe that lady. Says, Nigrihitasya manuso nirvikalpasya dhimataha prachara sato vigyeya shushupte anyo na tatsamaha. What's the difference between deep sleep and samadhi? One should know the behavior of the mind, which, being endowed with discrimination and free from illusion, is under control. Samadhi means to have your mind completely under control, completely under control. The condition of the mind in deep sleep is not like that, but is of a different kind. What is that different kind? That will be explained. So, in case of auto suggestions, self hypnosis, drugs, unconsciousness, deep sleep, your mind is not under control. When you drink, once I was having some discussion with some friend long ago, and the discussion was between which one is worse, drinking or smoking. So that gentleman was focusing on smoking. No, I was firm. I said, nothing doing. Drinking is extremely bad. You lose control over your mind. Mind. The only asset that you have, I keep telling that time and tranquility, these are my two assets. Once I die, once I go to some other loka, the sense of time will change for me. It's said in our scriptures, and it's logical. When you go to a different sphere of existence, the scale of time changes for you. But mind will not change. Mind, you are mind. You and your mind are same. How can you let go of the only asset that you have beyond control? No, you cannot. You must not. So drinking and drugs, absolute taboo for people who are aspiring to be a devotee, who are aspiring to be a jnani, who are aspiring for spiritual realization, because they need to keep their mind under control all the time. So, nigrihitasya has been brought under control. And nirvikalpa, nigrihitasya manaso nirvikalpasya dhimataha. There are two terms starting with ni. Ni is not. Nigrihitasya is completely controlled. This is a very powerful horse. You want to keep it under control. You drug it. Of what use is that horse now? Or if you terrify that horse into submission, Of what use is that horse? Nothing. Useless. If you dull your mind with the help of drug or auto suggestion, self hypnosis, I met someone that reminds me. Oh my God. So recently I'd been out and I met one lady and she was talking to me about curing certain things through hypnosis. And that lady asked me what was my opinion. I strongly objected to it. No, you cannot. No, no. You, under no condition, should be taking control of the mind of others. No, shouldn't be. I'm not sure if she liked what I said, but then I was just telling the truth. Neither you should allow anyone to take control of your mind, nor you should ever go to control the mind of others. It's a sin. It's a sin. There's a fiery horse, powerful horse. Train it. Give it more power. But never dull it. No, never dull it. So what's happening during deep sleep is you're just allowing the horse to go to sleep. And when you take drinks or drugs, you're drugging the horse. It's of no use. Instead, try to control the horse. Like Napoleon controlled his horse. Not Napoleon, sorry, Alexander. He controlled his horse. Any machine, if you can control a machine, you have the real power. Machine should not be allowed to go wild, nor should you shut it down. Machine is useful only till it's working as a machine. I had developed a concept known as infoenergy. Energy plus information. Information is that thing which is put inside a machine or any system that regulates it. If the level of information is less, infoenergy is less. And because infoenergy is less, it acts wild. A thing that goes wild is of no use. Its utility decreases. So, it says, Nirvikalpa doesn't let his mind go here and there. So, Dhiman, one who is intelligent. See, Vedanta is not meant for everyone. Vedanta is meant for very intelligent people. Only if your mind is very, very, very sharp, then you can understand Vedanta. Vedanta is not meant for all. Hey, after maybe one or two verses, I will say, it's extremely terrifying. People cannot take it. So people who aspire to be yogis, people who are very sharp, very intelligent, they should try to know this affair of the mind diligently, intelligently, in depth. So the question is, what about deep sleep? Says, no. In deep sleep, what is happening? Ignorance, avidya, which is the root cause of the entire universe, which is the root cause of me, you, everything, which is the root cause of duality, which is the root cause of all the troubles, avidya. The seed remains intact. And the moment you start getting up, the moment you start coming out of deep sleep, that seed sprouts. It's a wonder, those of you who might have some interest in reading asterisks and obliques, there is one of those stories of asterisks where God of Mansons of God. So there is a druid who puts magic seeds, put in some magic potion, and the tree sprouts instantly. So Oblix is not surprised. He had never seen a tree grow, etc. Here our mind is sprouting this world every day. Every time you go into deep sleep, and once you are coming out of it, your whole universe, your world sprouts instantly, faster than the tree that was growing in that book, Asterix and Obelix. Faster. Oh. Because the seed is there, and these seeds are extremely potent. Instantly, the entire universe grows. Imagine when you go into deep sleep, whole thing vanishes as if nothing is there. You can be carried from one city to the other and you won't know. Anything may happen to you, you won't know. And yet, the moment you start coming out of deep sleep, the universe in blooms, erupts. Amazing. What a mystery. What a magic. No magician can create such a big magic. And we are creating it every day. Every day we are creating this. We are creating this universe and we are dissolving this universe every day. But that's not our goal. That's not what we want. We want ultimate dissolution of this universe. Sushupti cannot provide us with that. Neither drugs, nor drinks, nor unconsciousness, and definitely not deep sleep. The deletion of duality continues. That's why we need samadhi. The destruction of that seed, the seed that sprouts into this whole universe, the universe that we perceive in our dream state, the universe that we perceive in our waking state, the seed remains in avidya state, just in seed form. When we are asleep, when we are unconscious, when we are drugged. So, in Rajyog talks, we have discussed how we have different kinds of mind, five different kinds of mind. The yogis, that is me, you, and anyone who is listening, and anyone who is interested in these things, has to try for complete cessation of mind. By complete cessation of mind, we mean that the seed of ignorance, the seed of avidya, prakriti, has to be destroyed. The seed has to become like a fried seed. Fried seeds do not germinate. They do not sprout in trees anymore. So we need to acquire that knowledge. Only by acquiring the knowledge of the universal, only by acquiring the knowledge of oneness, we can aspire to destroy the seed of the ignorance. Theoretically speaking, once I was reading a book, it was written by some Hindu monk, and there he was arguing, like Semitic religions, that there is no rebirth, and whatever we have to attain before death, etc., etc. So initially I was impressed. I didn't know much in those days. Then I realized, no, it cannot happen. Because if you have to compare deep sleep, if you have to compare sushupti, best it can be compared is with death. When you die, nothing changes. Nothing changes. It is just invisible. The moment, opportune moment comes, you become visible again. Sushupti, you go into a particular stupor and you come out, whole thing comes back again. So no, death cannot lead you to immortality. Death can only take you to different spheres. Of course, if you have acquired knowledge, now if you know the truth, well, then it's a different matter. Otherwise, no, it won't. And why samadhi? Why should we aspire for it? Well, sometimes some of you might have faced this question from your near and dear ones. Why should we go for spirituality? It's answered now. Verse number 35. Liyate hi susupte tan nigrihitam na liyate tadev nirvayam brahma gyan alokam samantata. It's a very beautiful verse in the sense that it explains why we need spirituality. Not only spiritually, it's not ordinary spirituality where you worship God, where you want to devote yourself to God, and where you plan to go to heaven by doing this and by doing that. That includes killing people. No, we don't believe in all that. We believe in what? Liyate hi susupte tan nigrihitam na liyate. The mind is withdrawn in deep sleep, as we explained, like it becomes seed. But it is not so when the mind is controlled. The mind is ultimately controlled. It's not like withdrawing it. The controlled mind is verily the fearless Brahman. Tadeva Nirvayam Brahma. Now, those of you who are really interested in this subject, you should mark this. Miss Priyanka has written it. Tadeva Nirvayam Brahma. Tadeva Nirvayam Brahma. The controlled mind is mind that has ceased to function. Verily, it is one with Brahman. Active mind is world, stilled mind is Brahman. Such a simple thing. Can be terrifying, can be terrifying. We see this world simply because our mind is active. When we go into the state of losing consciousness, the mind is in seed state. Activities of mind, they are in deep state, in seed state. When we go into deep sleep, sushupti, same thing happens. When you go into any other state, same thing happens. But once you can succeed in silencing the vrittis forever, mind becomes one with Brahman. In Kathopanishad, we have Kathopanishad talks. You can listen to them if you are interested. There's a very beautiful mantra. Verses of Upanishads are known as mantra. When you take a drop of pure water and put it in a body of water, what happens? They become one. The problem is that when we think of water, we are actually talking about particles. Even if you take an ocean of light and put a photon, you're talking of matter. And that's why these ideas do not become clear. When mind reaches the state of non-activity, it's like whole thing has become one with Brahman, one with consciousness. Consciousness, when living in its own majesty, is consciousness, is Brahman. Now, when consciousness appears as mind, activity is now of a different kind. A world comes. That's why we are Brahman all the time. We are also Jeev all the time. Why? A functioning mind is Jiva. Silenced mind, stilled mind is Brahman. There is no difference. Dear listeners, I find it frightening. I don't know if you find it frightening. It's frightening. It's too massive. It's huge. All the time we are the universal. All the time I'm pure existence, I'm pure consciousness. And simply because that consciousness is imagining itself to be the mind means activity. And because it's active, so we have these three states: waking, dream, and deep sleep. And this universe is there. Amazing. And yet that state can be attained in a moment. How? Just still your mind. Complete. And you realize you are Brahman. And Brahman, what kind of Brahman? Nirbhayam Brahma. Nirbhaya. Fearlessness. There's absolutely no fear of any kind. What is fear? Fear comes whenever you think of two. This is a very beautiful description in Upanishad. That when the creation became as a story, there was God. It got scared and then it thought, why should I be scared? Because there is no two. In Upanishads, we come across this many times. Wherever there is duality, there is fear. Fear always means duality. Now, you can overcome the fear of this, you can overcome the fear of the, like when we were young kids, we were scared of ghosts. Now we are not that scared of ghosts. We are scared of darkness. We are now not scared of darkness. No, things like that. In fact, we love darkness. We love to meditate in darkness and we love being ourselves. But when we were kids, we were scared of darkness. You outgrow certain fears. We are scared of this and we were scared of that. We have overcome all that. And yet, new fears have come. When you were a kid, you were never scared of not having wealth, not having money. But now you are. I mean, most of us are. You were now you are scared of governments. Now you're scared of this and scared of that. These fears were not there when you were a kid. So certain fears go away, new fears come. As you grow further, certain fears will go away and new fear will come. So the game of fear and outgrowing fear will continue forever. Till when? Till eternity. It will go on. It's a never ending thing. But it will end. It will end if you can reach that state of unification, the state of universality, the state of Brahman. Brahman and Brahmagyan, they are one and the same. Brahman and Brahmagyan, knowledge of Brahman, they are not two different things as we explained in the beginning. Once you reach that state, you become completely fearless. Completely fearless. How to reach that? There is no way of reaching that state unless you go into Samadhi. Why Samadhi? You need Samadhi because you need knowledge of Brahman. Because in that knowledge lies cessation of all the troubles that we have, the sorrow that we have, the fear that we have. Like people are scared to lose their dear ones. We are scared of losing our life. We are scared of losing our limbs. And particularly the dear ones. People whom you love, you don't want to lose them. But why you are scared? Because you see duality. If you can somehow reach that state of non-duality, where you see that everything is one, then all these things will go away. Most importantly, every emotion will be gone forever. Instead of emotions, now you will be full of knowledge. Emotions oppose knowledge. See, one of my friends is a very big publisher. At least he used to be a very big publisher. So he was once narrating that in his time, prime time, he was a publisher of computer books. He published more than 15,000 titles. And he said that whenever an author wrote a book and came to him to get published, the author would say that, well, I have written the last word on this subject. I found it so funny because whenever I write, I also feel the same way. This is the last word. I said, the author always feels that he is going to shake the market. But nothing happens. I am realizing it that now. Nothing happens. Nobody purchases you. Nobody reads you. And within a year, a new book comes on the same topic. And then he used this expression beautifully. He said, when a person writes, he's so passionate about it. We get emotional about it. Emotion is the eternal enemy of knowledge. Our life runs on emotions. Our life does not run on knowledge. Even we don't apply theoretical knowledge. Forget about the actual knowledge. We don't even apply theoretical knowledge. If we applied even theoretical knowledge, our pains would reduce, as my friend was telling. That only when the book is published that the authors get a reality check. Reality check, that is knowledge. Till then, he is passionate. He thinks he is going to shake the market. Nothing happens. Knowledge kills emotions. Knowledge kills emotions. If you want to kill emotion, if you are suffering, if you tend to get hyper, if you tend to get depressed, if you tend to go low, if you feel jealous, if you feel too full of mirth, have the right knowledge, emotions will go away. Fear, our worst enemy. It can go away only when you know Brahman. Only you know that you are one with the universal. Jnana alokam samantataha. Because then you realize that everywhere there is only that Brahman. Everywhere there is only that pure consciousness. So, the light of his omniscience. Everywhere there is that pure consciousness. You cannot have any emotion. It's just no way. Do you want to get rid of your fears, real or imagined? Do you want to get rid of your sorrows, fear or imagined? You need to have knowledge. And that's how we keep on outgrowing our fears. So, well, that was a huge discussion. In case you have any question, because we're discussing, well, whatever we are discussing is not very difficult, but for many of you, it's all new, so you may find it slightly difficult to grasp. No. So we move on to the next verse. Ajam, anidram, swapnam, namakam, arupakam, sakrit vibhatam sarvagyam, nopchara kathanshana. Brahman is being described. Pure consciousness is being described. Brahman, consciousness, the ultimate knowledge. It is birthless. It's not that it was not there, it has been born. It is a nidram. It is not the dream state. And it is not even deep sleep, susupti. Ajam, anidram, aswapnam. Nidra and swapna, these are the two terms being used. It is nameless. It cannot be named. It is beyond any form. All the forms exist in it. It is ever effulgent. It's ever effulgent. Devasis Das, he writes beautifully. Fear of social disgrace too is at times bigger than fear of death. You're so true. In fact, Gita discusses it in second chapter when Lord Krishna cautions Arjuna, Sambhavitasya chakritir marnadati richyate. A person who is established in self-respect, person who has fame, the loss of these worse than death. You are absolutely correct. Social disgrace. Even the kids, even the kids are extremely scared of social disgrace. Even kids who are in class 1 or 2, they're so scared that if their ma'am scolds her in the class in front of her classmates, the baby gets scared. You're absolutely correct. It's worse than fear of death. Nowadays, we hear that some kid wanted one smartphone from his or her parents, and they could not afford it. They did not give it. The teenager goes and commits suicide because it's a social disgrace for that kid. Very stupid, extremely stupid. But the peer group in which he or she lives, they are not having a smartphone is social disgrace. Absolutely correct. Yes. So anyway, ajam, anidram, aswapnam, namakam, arupakam. You cannot name it because naming means distinguishing it from something. Roop, it has certain form. True. Distinguished from other forms. No. It's the ultimate repository of everything. All the forms exist in it. Sakrit vibhatam sarvagyam. Ever effulgent. Ever effulgent. And sarvagyam is pure consciousness, so it knows everything. Dear listeners, isn't it terrifying? Isn't it terrifying that me as Brahman, I am omniscient, I know everything. Simply because I have allowed my consciousness to become the mind, and this mind is active, so I am getting the universe, and my knowledge becomes limited. My form becomes limited, my name becomes limited. I become a limited being. And why? Because I have chosen to be so. So terrifying. Just terrifying. Terrifying. One of my brother monks, I remember he was pretty young. He said, "Oh, how I wish." He was very young, but very intelligent person. And he used to tell it very seriously. How I wish that all these things of religion were false. Why? He said, neither am I able to attain that heights of spirituality, nor am I able to jump in this world of enjoyment. He was very young in those days. I found his words extremely impressive. He said, if somehow somebody can convince me that spirituality is all false, all these scriptures are false, I would just plunge into every kind of enjoyment. I'll kind of tear this world apart. So I loved his enthusiasm. Enthusiastic people, enthuse me. I love action. And he meant it. He meant it. He was not just one of those big talkers. He meant it. That if only somehow I could convince myself, or somebody could convince myself, that all this Atman, Brahman, and God, these are all false, imagined things. I would plunge into the world, squeeze it out. But that's the unfortunate part, he used to say. It's something like this, this is so unfortunate. Every time I think of these things, whenever I'm into these discussions, whenever I am contemplating on this, it leaves me so terrified, it leaves me so upset, so distraught. Absolutely. Absolute distraught. God. I am unborn. I'm not named. I don't have any form because I'm infinite. Only finite things have form. Infinite cannot have form. I'm full of light. And I'm Sarvagya, omniscient. I know everything. I know the past, I know the future, I know the present. Oh my God. Once you know that, no pchara kadanchana, no. This last thing, the last two expressions here, we have this last expression. I wonder if you can see it. I marked it. No pchara kadanchana. No pchara kadanchana. You cannot have any kind of upachar. You cannot have any kind of duty. You cannot have any kind of responsibility. You are not completely beyond any responsibility. Gita has put it very beautifully in Karma Yoga chapter. Naiva tasya krite nartho na krite neha kasyana. So Abhishek Niyogi films. Why do pure Atman wants to see itself? Listen to our talk number 1 and continue. Everything has been explained. Hi, you cannot expect me to go and explain the same thing again, and again. Go listen. Particularly listen the chapter talks on Maya. You will understand. The problem, you people are not attentive enough. Anyway, at least you are listening. No pchara katanchana. You cannot have any duty. How can you have any duty? Duty is when you feel that there is a second one. When you feel connected with somebody. It's not about connecting and not connecting and etc. No. There is no two. Put it beautifully. Put it differently. Means anyone who has any sense of duty is not yet a jnani. This has become a very serious problem with India, in fact, because these scriptures, these are meant for very few. These are not meant for everybody. And when people were not competent teachers, they might have been good students, but not very good teachers. Because not every good student is a good teacher. When they started talking about this before the general public, like given the option, I'll never talk of these things to the public. The public is not ready for this. So now India took up this ideal and started, I don't have any duty, why should I do, and etc. And that was the downfall of India. The downfall of India can be hugely and greatly credited to Vedanta, the sadhus of Uttarakhand, who might have been good. So say again, same question, Abhishek Niyogi. I don't know why. You're very hyper about your questions. Listen to talk from beginning, you'll understand. What can there be any purpose? This is what we have been discussing. There is no purpose, there is no duty. You think like that. Why do you think like that? You think why you think like that. We have been discussing these things continuously. So there is this beautiful expression that you listen to the whole of Ramayana and then you ask, who was Sita's wife? There is no creation, it's telling. There is no creation. There is no purpose. Atma Kamasya Kaspriya. How can there be any purpose? It's just imagination. Once you meditate, once you reach that, you will know that there was nothing. You were just imagining. It has no purpose. Why should it have any purpose? Here we are discussing that even in this state, even theoretically, if you understand, you will say that you don't have any duty. And you don't have any duty even towards yourself. Forget about others. Because you don't have any purpose to fulfill. If everything is infinite, what purpose you have? But mind it, these things are not meant for ordinary minds. These are meant for great minds. So just I'll give you one beautiful example. Long ago, must have happened 50, 60 years ago. Those of you who have visited Belur Math would know that just opposite the temple, there is a building you might have seen. So earlier that used to be the mission office, the office of the headquarters of the Ramakrishna mission. So during Aarti time, whenever there was Aarti, it was the duty of one of the monks to sit there just in case somebody comes or something might happen. So some visitors had come from Gujarat or some other place. He saw one, they saw one monk sitting there. They went and said, that look, Arati is going on. Why are you sitting here? So the monk said, well, I am on duty to sit here. Those visitors were kind of shocked, surprised. How can a monk have any duty? How can a monk have any duty? How can Brahman have any duty? How can Brahman have any purpose? You love to think that you have a purpose. That is why you have all this. Once you know that you are Brahman, Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, Svabhava, eternal, pure, nothing can contaminate you. Conscious all the time, eternally free. Then why do you think that you are under bondage? Because you love to think. The way you pay to go watch tragic movies. And you know, the tragic movies are more famous than comedy movies. Greek tragedies are so famous. Even in Indian movies, Indian cinema, the tragedies, we had stars that were known as tragedy kings. Why would anyone pay to go to shed tears? There are enough tears in the society itself. Well, these are the mysteries of the universe that cannot be questioned, that cannot be rightly answered. You think, you go deeper, you'll find the answer. So, well, no pshara kathanchana. Why do you need samadhi? Once you reach samadhi, once you experience oneness, you will know that you don't have any duty. You'll realize that you are beyond any emotion. You realize you are beyond any fear. सर्व अभिलाप विगतः सर्व चिंता समुत्थिता सुप्रशांत सकृत ज्योति समाधिर अचलो अभयः is being repeated. The idea is being repeated. Verse number 37. Atman is beyond all expression by words. You cannot express it by words. Oh, Sita's wife, I said. I mean, Sita's, who was Rama's wife, right? Giridharananda Giri. Yes, you are correct. Who was Rama's wife? Oh, actually, it's Bengali Sita's Bharya Ke, who is husband of Sita. Atman is beyond all expression by words and beyond all acts of the mind. Neither it can be expressed, nor can it be grasped. It is great peace, it's ultimate peace, eternal effulgence, and samadhi. Samadhi comes from the word samahit. Samahit means to put. When you put the activities of your mind into something, that is, you reach that state where everything becomes unified. That's samadhi. To put something, to make something enter somewhere, samahit. It is without any emotion and it is fearless. Nirbhaya, the term nirbhaya comes again. It's beyond any fear. So essentially, all these traits belong to the world. What is being said here is beyond world. What is being said is beyond mind. So there is no any kind of acceptance that is catching hold of, nor there is any giving up. And that is why it is known as Asparsh Yoga, where there is no kind of contact, where there is no kind of touching. Thank you. We'll continue with this talk. We'll continue with verse number 38. Thank you.